Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is the 1970 Cleveland Indians MLB baseball season. Again, the Tribe was playing in the American League, the junior circuit of Major League Baseball, and home games were played at Cleveland Municipal Stadium downtown, where First Energy Stadium now stands on Lake Erie. The Tribe had a reasonable year in 1970. They finished in fifth place in the American League East with a record of 76-86, 10 games under 500, winning percentage of .469, 32 games out of first. The first place team was the Baltimore Orioles, who were 108-54, winning percentage of .667. Wow. Second place, the New York Yankees, 93-69, 15 games out of first. Third place, the Boston Red Sox, 87-75. Fourth place, the Detroit Tigers, 79-83. Fifth place, the Cleveland Indians, 76-86. And in sixth and last place, the Washington Senators, 70-92, winning percentage of .432, 38 games out of first. In the American League West, the Minnesota Twins finished in first with a record of 98-64, winning percentage of .605. Second place, the Oakland Athletics, 89-73, 9 games out of first. Third place, the California Angels, 86-76. Fourth place, the Kansas City Royals, 65-97. Fifth place, the Milwaukee Brewers, who were 65-97. This was their first year. In 1969, they had been the Seattle Pilots, who moved to Milwaukee and became the Brewers. And in sixth and last place, the Chicago White Sox, 56-106, winning percentage of .346, 42 games out of first. Tribe home attendance in 1970 was 729,752, or an average of 9,009 fans per game, up 110,000 from 1969. I'm reading a fine book. The title is Big Hair and Plastic Grass, A Funky Ride Through Baseball and America in the 1970s by Dan Epstein, 2010. The 1970s saw lots of changes in Major League Baseball. The designated hitter was introduced, free agency, and night games in the World Series. Also colorful uniforms led by the Oakland A's, bold afro hairstyles, and facial hair. In 1970, Doc Ellis of the Pittsburgh Pirates pitched a no-hitter under the influence of LSD. On January 16, 1970, MLB player Curt Flood filed a $14.1 million lawsuit against Major League Baseball and Commissioner Bowie Kuhn, challenging the reserve clause, contending that it violated federal antitrust laws. In October of 1969, Flood had been traded by the Cardinals to the Phillies. He refused to report to the Phillies and wanted to be declared a free agent. So the case was known as Flood versus Kuhn. At the start of the trial, Jackie Robinson, Hank Greenberg, and Bill Veeck all testified on Curt Flood's behalf. For the Oakland A's home opener, the team had gold bases for that game. And then they were shortly thereafter, the gold bases were banned by the MLB Rules Committee. I guess you had to have white bases, but they had to make a rule. A book came out in 1970. The title is Ball 4 by Jim Bouton, and this became a very popular and controversial book. 1970 saw the emergence of the Cincinnati Reds' Big Red Machine. They were a strong team. Rico Carty of the Atlanta Braves went on a 31-game hitting streak and led the National League in hitting with an average of .366. Of course, he later played for Cleveland. 1970, Three Rivers Stadium opened in Pittsburgh, where the Pirates and the NFL Steelers played for many years, where the Allegheny River and the Monongahela Rivers joined to form the Ohio River, hence Three Rivers. On July 24th, Roberto Clemente Night was held at Three Rivers Stadium. In 1970, Henry Aaron became the first MLB player to have 500 home runs and 3,000 hits. In July, Willie Mays got his 3,000th hit, becoming the 10th MLB player to achieve that feat. Old Timers Day at Yankee Stadium saw Casey Stengel's number 37 retired. And he joined Babe Ruth's number 3, Lou Gehrig number 4, Joe DiMaggio 5, and Mickey Mantle 7. All those numbers were all retired by the Yankees. And with the Indians, Vernon Stouffer was back as tribe owner, and Stouffer was the tribe owner from 1966 to 1971, and he's buried in Lakewood Park Cemetery in Rocky River, Ohio. The founder of Stouffer Frozen Foods, Vernon Stouffer. Gabe Paul was back as head of the financial, marketing, and promotions for the tribe. He was the GM, but stripped of his real power. Gabe Paul was the head of the tribe ownership group from 1963 to 1966. He was tribe GM from 1961 to 1972 and from 1978 to 1984. Regarding after the Yankees won the 1977 World Series with Gabe Paul as general manager, his daughter Jenny Paul wrote, quote, "I wanted to believe that Dad valued me as much as his New York Yankees championship ring." Jenny and her father Gabe met with a counselor to try to work on their relationship, and Jenny wrote, quote, "He finally agreed to come with me. Dad fell asleep in the meeting while I talked. As much as it broke my heart, I rationalized his nap. Maybe he was tired from his long hours on the job. Dad had always said that actions spoke louder than words. In this case, his actions spoke more cruelly than I was prepared for." Gabe Paul. Herb Score was back as a tribe broadcaster on WERE radio. Herb Score was a tribe player from 1955 to 1959 and a tribe TV and radio broadcaster from 1964 to 1997, and he's buried in Lakewood Park Cemetery in Rocky River, Ohio. Herb Score. His partner was Bob Neal on WERE radio. Bob Neal was a tribe TV and radio broadcaster from 1952 to 1953, and from 1957 to 1972. Bob Neal. Harry Jones was back as a TV broadcaster for tribe games on WJW-TV. Jones was a Cleveland Plain Dealer reporter from 1940 to 1947, Cleveland Plain Dealer sports writer from 1947 to 1960, and a tribe TV and radio broadcaster from 1961 to 1974 and in 1977. Harry Jones. His partner was Dave Martin on WJW-TV, and Martin was a tribe TV broadcaster from 1969 to 1971. Dave Martin. Alvin Dark was back as the tribe general manager and manager. Dark was the tribe manager from 1968 to 1971. He was the tribe GM from 1969 to 1970. Alvin Dark divorced his first wife and remarried in 1970. His second wife's name was Jackie, and she had 2 children from a first marriage. Their names were Rusty and Lori, ages 12 and 11, and Alvin Dark adopted them. Alvin Dark wrote in his biography, quote, "I was a torrent of rules and regulations. I did not temper discipline with love and affection, the way the Bible teaches. It's hard to imagine how ineffective Jackie and I were as parents. We were drowning in our own sorrows and did not hear Rusty and Lori's cries for help." Alvin Dark. Clay Bryant was a tribe coach. Bryant was a tribe coach in 1967, 1970, and 1974. Clay Bryant. Cott Deal was a new tribe coach. Deal was a tribe coach in 1970 and 1971. Cott Deal was born in 1923 in Arapahoe, Oklahoma, and died in 2013 in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma at age 90. During his playing career as a pitcher, he was 3-4 with an ERA of 6.55 and 34 strikeouts. He played for the Boston Red Sox and St. Louis Cardinals from 1947 to 1954. His given name was Ellis. They called him Cott because of his cotton top hair color. He had 48 years in baseball, 20 years as a player, 5 years as a manager, 22 years as a coach, and 1 as an executive. He played outfield and third base as well. In the Second World War, Deal was in the U.S. Army Air Corps. In the minors, he won 108 games as a pitcher. 1949, with the Louisville Colonels, he pitched a 20-inning complete game. He gave up one earned run and was 4 for 8 as a hitter in that game. In the 1952 Caribbean series, he had a home run. He was a manager for the Rochester Red Wings from 57 to 59. He's in the Red Wings Hall of Fame, inducted in 1994. Deal was a pitching coach for the Cincinnati Reds, Houston Colt 45s, New York Yankees, Kansas City Athletics, Cleveland Indians, Detroit Tigers, and Houston Tigers. He was the assistant minor league director for the White Sox, a minor league hitting and outfield coach for the San Francisco Giants. In 1961, he was the manager for the Indianapolis Indians and won a Double-A title. He's also a manager for the Oklahoma City 89ers, the Toledo Mud Hens, and a coach for the Columbus Clippers. Deal. Hoot Evers was a Tribe coach in 1970. Evers was a Tribe player from 1955 to 1956. Hoot Evers. Kirby Farrell was a coach. Farrell was a Tribe coach in 1970 to 1971. He was a Tribe manager in 1957. Kirby Farrell. Johnny Lippon was a Tribe coach. Lippon was a Tribe coach from 1968 to 1971, and he was the Tribe interim manager for the last 59 games of the 71 season. Johnny Lippon. Now the starting lineup, Ray Fosse was the catcher. Fosse batted .307 with 138 hits. He scored 62 runs, 17 doubles, a triple, 18 home runs, 61 RBIs, a stolen base, 39 walks in 120 games. Fosse was with Cleveland from 1967 to 1972, and from 1976 to 1977. He played in the 1970 American League All-Star team, and he was batting .312 with 16 home runs at the break. Now, at the All-Star game in Cincinnati, in the bottom of the 12th, he was involved in a collision with Pete Rose at home plate and had a severe injury to his arm and left shoulder. It was never the same. He only hit 2 home runs after the break. He was co-winner of the 1970 Tribe Man of the Year and won a Gold Glove in 1970. Now, during that fateful play, Clyde Wright was the American League pitcher when Pete Rose and Fosse had the collision. And Clyde Wright was the father of Jarrett Wright, who became a star for the Tribe in 1997. Fosse said, quote, "It wasn't until the following April that I realized I had fractured and separated my left shoulder. Remember, that was 1970, and things were different then. I was making $12,000, and in those days, if a bone wasn't sticking out of your body, they'd say, 'You're okay, go ahead and play.' Sure, it hurt my career. I wonder if I could have been a 30 home run hitter. If things back then were the way they are now, the way they take care of guys, it all might have been different for me." After his injury, he did have x-rays, but because of inflammation and swelling, the fracture was not shown on the x-ray. Only later did he find out, the following year. Herb Score said, quote, "Ray Fosse was such a tough guy. Maybe if he had sat out a month or two after the collision, he would have been all right. He played in such pain, but it messed up his swing for the rest of his career." Ray Fosse. Tony Horton was at first base. Horton batted .269 with 111 hits. He scored 48 runs, 19 doubles, 3 triples, 17 home runs, 59 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 30 walks in 115 games. Horton was with Cleveland from 1967 to 1970. On May 24th, Horton hit 3 home runs in a game at the stadium against the Yankees. On August 28th, at the stadium, after grounding out in a game against the Angels, he had a nervous breakdown and never played professional baseball again. Pete Franklin said, quote, "At the plate, Tony would squeeze the bat and squeeze it as if he were going to turn it to sawdust right in his hands." Teammate Rich Rollins said, quote, I had heard about guys taking batting practice until their hands bled, but I never saw it until Tony." Gabe Paul said, quote, "I went to see Tony about a year after his breakdown, but the meeting didn't go very well. You could tell that he'd never play baseball again. This was one of the saddest things I've ever seen in baseball." In 1973, Horton said, quote, "I never think about playing baseball again. I have an entirely new life, and baseball is not a part of it. I play a little golf, but the game I like best is handball. It's fascinating, and I play it a lot. I started my life over, and baseball is not a part of it. In one game in 1970, the game was over and the players had left the field and went to the clubhouse. However, Horton remained in position at first base, unaware that the game was over. On August 29th, Horton was found in his car by the Bluegrass Motel in Cleveland, where he lived. And he had slit his wrists and was bleeding profusely. This was at 5 o'clock a.m. He was taken to the hospital, was put in a mental hospital, and was hospitalized until January of 1971. Horton went on to have a fine career in the banking industry. He's not been interested in speaking with the media over the years. He was told by a father at one point that a reporter wished to speak with him, and he said, quote, "I'm not interested." "You mean a sports story? I'm definitely not interested." God bless Tony Horton. Eddie Leon was at second base. Leon batted .248 with 136 hits. He scored 58 runs, 20 doubles, 4 triples, 10 home runs, 56 RBIs, a stolen base, 47 walks, 89 strikeouts in 152 games. Leon was with Cleveland from 1968 to 1972. Eddie Leon. Jack Heidemann was at shortstop. Heidemann batted .211 with 94 hits. He scored 44 runs, 14 doubles, 2 triples, 6 home runs, 37 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 34 walks, 88 strikeouts in 133 games. And Heidemann was with Cleveland from 1969 to 1972 and in 1974. Jack Heidemann. Greg Nettles was at third base. Nettles batted .235 with 129 hits. He scored 81 runs, 13 doubles, a triple, 26 home runs, 62 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 81 walks in 157 games. Greg Nettles was born in 1944 in San Diego, California, and he's 75 years old in 2019. For his career, he batted .248 with 390 home runs, wow, and 1,314 RBIs. Nettles played for the Minnesota Twins, Cleveland Indians, New York Yankees, San Diego Padres, Atlanta Braves, and Montreal Expos from 1967 to 1988. He was a six-time All-Star in 1975, from 77 to 80 and in 85. He won 2 World Series titles in 77 and 78 with the Yankees, 2 Gold Gloves, also those in 77 and 78. He was American League home run leader in 1976, and he was the New York Yankee captain from 1982 to 83. He won a National League title in 84 with the Padres, San Diego Padres. They called him Puff, one of the best defensive third basemen of his time. He had the American League career record for home runs as a third baseman. He also won an American League title for the 76 Yankees. His mother combined the names Greg and Craig to form Greg. Nettles said, quote, "My dad was away at war, so he didn't have any say." Nettles went to San Diego State College, played on a basketball scholarship, and also played for the Aztecs baseball and basketball teams. He had a collegiate summer playing baseball in Alaska for the Gold Panners and won an Alaska Baseball League title. In 64 and 65, won 2 titles. Nettles had a feud with Tribe manager Ken Aspromonte, which led to his trade to the Yankees. In 74 with the Yankees, in April, he set an American League record with 11 home runs in the month. In September of 74, he was caught using a bat with 6 Super Bowls inside. September 14th, Greg and his brother Jim both hit home runs in the same game. And the other brother combinations to achieve that feat include Brett and Aaron Boone, Jose and Hector Cruz, and Felipe and Cesar Crespo, and Al and Tony Cuccinello. Also Joe and Dom DiMaggio, and Rick and Wes Farrell. In 78 with the 78 World Series, Nettles had some big plays at third base that helped the Yankees win the World Series. Regarding playing for the Yankees, Nettles said, quote, "When I was a little boy, I wanted to be a baseball player and join the circus. With the Yankees, I have accomplished both." 1985, his teammate with the Padres was Eric Show, who gave up Pete Rose's record-breaking 4,192nd hit. And Shaw was a conservative, member of the conservative John Birch Society. Nettles said, quote, "The Birch Society is going to expel Eric for making a Red famous." Nettles was a coach for the Yankees in '91 and the Padres in '95. He resides in Lenoir, Tennessee, a suburb of Knoxville. He's the manager for the St. Lucie Legends in the Senior Professional Baseball Association in 1989. He was a consultant for the Bronx is Burning, a TV series regarding the '77 Yankees, TV drama. 2008, Nettles had prostate cancer. He's the author of the book Balls, in 1984 with Peter Golenbach. 91, he was inducted in the San Diego Hall of Champions. 1971, he had the all-time MLB record for assists for a third baseman with 412. Nettles is mentioned in the video by Bruce Springsteen, Glory Days. The Springsteen character tells a team that he lost an imaginary game against the Padres, and he said, quote, "Nettles got me in the bottom of the ninth." The minors, Nettles played for the Bradenton Explorers and Denver Bears. In Venezuela, he played for Leones de Caracas and Tigres de Aragua. From 70 to 72, the tribe, Nettles playing for the tribe, the attendance was very low. And one day a fan asked Nettles, "What time does tomorrow's game start?" And Nettles responded, quote, "Well, what time can you make it?" Greg Nettles. Roy Foster was in left field. Foster batted .268 with 128 hits. He scored 66 runs, 26 doubles, 23 home runs, 60 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 54 walks in 139 games. Foster was born in 1945 in Bixby, Oklahoma, and died in 2008 in Tulsa, Oklahoma at age 62. For his career, he batted .253 with 45 home runs and 118 RBIs. He played for the Cleveland Indians from 1970 to 1972. He got one vote for American League Rookie of the Year in 1970. In the minors, he played for the Memphis Blues, Oklahoma City 89ers, Tidewater Tides, and Hawaii Islanders. And he was the Sporting News 1970 American League Rookie of the Year. Roy Foster. Ted Eulander played center field. Eulander batted .268 with 127 hits. He scored 56 runs, 21 doubles, 2 triples, 11 home runs, 46 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 39 walks in 141 games. Eulander was born in 1939 in Chicago Heights, Illinois, and died in 2009 in Atwood, Kansas at age 69. For his career, he batted .263 with 36 home runs and 285 RBIs. Eulander played for the Minnesota Twins, Cleveland Indians, and Cincinnati Reds from 1965 to 1972. His daughter is an Olympic women's skeleton competitor, Katie Eulander. Eulander won an American League title in '65 with the Twins and a National League title in '72 with the Reds. In 1968, he was 5th in the American League in hitting with a .283 average. In '69, with the American League, he won an American League West title with the Twins. He was a tribe coach in 2000 and 2001, and San Francisco Giants coach from 2002 to 2008. He had multiple myeloma in 2008 and died of a heart attack at his ranch in Atwood, Kansas, just before his daughter Katie finished second in the Women's Skeleton World Cup season finale at Utah Olympic Park. In memory of her father, Katie wears his 1972 National League title ring on a necklace. 1970, in a game in Fenway Park, Red Sox fans were throwing bottles, batteries, and other things at Eulander in center field. Eulander left the game and refused to play. Tribe had a near forfeit. However, the Red Sox beefed up security in the bleachers in center field. Eulander returned to the game, and the game resumed. Ted Eulander. Veda Pinson was in right field. Pinson batted .286 with 164 hits. He scored 74 runs, 28 doubles, 6 triples, 24 home runs, 82 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, 28 walks in 148 games. His 7 stolen bases led the team. Not much running for the tribe in 1970. Veda Pinson was born in 1938 in Memphis, Tennessee, and died in 1995 in Oakland, California at age 57. For his career, he batted .286 with 256 home runs and 1,170 RBIs, 2,757 hits. He had quite a career. Pinson played for the Cincinnati Reds, St. Louis Cardinals, Cleveland Indians, California Angels, and Kansas City Royals from 1958 to 1975. He was a four-time All-Star from 1959 to 1960. He won a Gold Glove in '61. He's in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. He won a National League title in '61 with the Reds. Pinson was known for his power, speed, and strong defensive ability. He was high school teammates of Frank Robinson, Curt Flood, and NBA star Bill Russell at Oakland, California, McClemens High School. He played the trumpet in the high school band and considered a career in music. In 1959, he was 15th in the MVP voting. He led the National League in putouts for an outfielder in 1959 and 1960. In 1961, he was third in the National League in MVP voting. He was a coach for the Seattle Mariners, Chicago White Sox, Detroit Tigers, and Florida Marlins. He was a coach for the inaugural season of the Mariners in '77 and the Marlins' inaugural year in '93. He died of a stroke in the minors. Pinson played for the Wausau Lumberjacks and Visalia Redlegs. Beta Pinson. Now, the bench players included Duke Sims, who was a utility player, primarily a catcher. Sims batted .264 with 91 hits. He scored 46 runs, 12 doubles, 23 home runs, 56 RBIs, 46 walks in 110 games. Duke Sims was with Cleveland from 1964 to 1970. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1974. Duke Sims. Chuck Hinton was a utility player. Hinton batted .318 with 62 hits. He scored 24 runs, 4 doubles, 9 home runs, 29 RBIs, 25 walks in 107 games. Hinton was with Cleveland from 1965 to 1967, from 1969 to 1971. On August 8th, the Tribe and Senators were playing in Washington. In the top of the ninth, there was a 2-2 game, and Hinton hit a 2-run game-winning home run. He said, quote, "The home run was a highlight in my career, but I had missed another highlight in my personal life, the birth of my last child, Tiffany Ermette, on July 19th. Although I missed 3 out of 4 of my children's births because I was playing baseball, I never lost sight of what has always mattered most to me, my family. We had such fun as a family. In life, nobody gives you anything. You have to earn it. Even today, we are a close family. We are all born-again Christians. My wife, Bunny, has been the anchor of my life, my one and only true love. My wife is a queen and a saint with a heart of gold. She goes to hospitals to pray for the sick and shares the love of Jesus on the streets of Washington, D.C. God has blessed me with Bunny, a gift from heaven." 1970, Hinton had his 100th career home run. Chuck Hinton said, quote, "Mudcat Grant was a good friend, and we play a lot of golf together. Many people have habits. Regardless of our habits, we should think of others. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we thought of others in all we do? It's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Chuck Hinton. Buddy Bradford played some center field. Bradford batted .196 with 32 hits. He scored 25 runs, 6 doubles, a triple, 7 home runs, 23 RBIs, 21 walks in 75 games. Bradford was born in 1944 in Mobile, Alabama, and he's 75 years old in 2019. For his career, he batted .226 with 52 home runs and 175 RBIs. Bradford played for the Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Indians, Cincinnati Reds, St. Louis Cardinals, and Kanetsu Buffaloes in Japan from 1966 to 1977. He had a strong arm, was a solid outfielder. In the minors, he played for the Clinton Sea Sox, Tucson Toros, Tidewater Tides, and Iowa Oaks, and in Venezuela for Navegantes del Magallanes. Buddy Bradford. Larry Brown played some shortstop. Brown batted .258 with 40 hits. He scored 17 runs, 5 doubles, 2 triples, 15 RBIs, a stolen base, 20 walks in 72 games. Larry Brown was with Cleveland from 1963 to 1971. He won the 1970 Cleveland Baseball Writers Frank Gibbons Good Guy Award. Larry Brown. Lou Klimchak played some infield. Klimchak batted 161 with 9 hits. He scored 5 runs, had a home run, 2 RBIs, 3 walks in 41 games. Klimchak was with Cleveland from 1968 to 1970, and this was the end of his MLB career. Lou Klimchak. Ted Ford played some outfield. Ford batted 174 with 8 hits. He scored 5 runs, had a double, a home run, an RBI, 3 walks in 26 games. Ford was born in 1947 in Vineland, New Jersey, and he's 72 years old in 2019. For his career, he batted .219 with 17 home runs and 68 RBIs. He played for the Cleveland Indians and Texas Rangers from 1970 to 1973. His grandson is Darren Ford, also an MLB player. Ted Ford was the 11th overall pick in the 1966 amateur draft. He had 2 years of military service in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam War in 1968 and 1969. The minors, he played for the Denver Bears, Dubuque Packers, Hawaii Islanders, and Oklahoma City 89ers and Wichita Arrows. And in Mexico, he played for Broncos de Reynosa, Charros de Jalisco, Diablos Rojos del Mexico, Saraperos de Saltillo, and Tigres del Mexico, and in Venezuela for Tigres de Aragua. Ted Ford. Rich Rollins played some third base. Rollins batted .233 with 10 hits. He scored 6 runs, had 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 3 walks in 42 games. Rollins was born in 1938 in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, and he's 81 years old in 2019. For his career, he batted .269 with 77 home runs and 399 RBIs. Rollins played for the Minnesota Twins, Seattle Pilots, Milwaukee Brewers, and Cleveland Indians from 1961 to 1970, so this was the end of his MLB playing career. He played in 2 All-Star games during the 1962 season when they had 2 All-Star games. He went to Kent State University, played on the Golden Flashes baseball team. They called him Pie after Pirates Hall of Famer Pie Traynor. In 1962, he was 8th in the American League MVP voting. He was number 1. He was the number 1 in All-Star voting and started both games in 62. He won an American League title in 65 with the Twins. In 66, he had a record on June 9th. There were 5 home runs by the Twins in 1 inning. And they were hit by Rollins, Harmon Killebrew, Don Mincher, Tony Oliva, and Zoilo Versales. The minors, Rollins played for the Wilson Tobbs, Charlotte Hornets, and he currently lives in Akron, Ohio. Rich Rollins. Ken Hawk Harrelson played some first base. Harrelson batted .282 with 11 hits. He scored 3 runs, had a double, a home run, and an RBI, 6 walks in 17 games. Harrelson was with Cleveland from 1969 to 1971. On March 19th, Harrelson suffered a broken ankle in spring training, was out most of the season, and led to his premature retirement. He was sliding into second base in a preseason game, broke several bones in his ankle. Harrelson said, quote, "I considered myself a pretty decent baseball player by the age of 28, but there was one thing I never could do, slide. I was the worst slider in the baseball world." Regarding his injury at sliding into second, Harrelson said, quote, "My cleats got caught in the infield dirt. I heard a loud pow pow. Immediately I knew my leg and my ankle were broken. I looked down to see my right foot pointing about 45 degrees to the right of my leg. I reached down with both hands, grabbed it, and turned it back to the left, lining it up the way God had made it 28 years earlier. I got sick to my stomach and almost vomited. Within a few minutes, my ankle swelled to the size of a coconut. As the weeks passed, day by day, I was losing my enthusiasm for rehabbing. I just didn't want to do the work, and I honestly didn't really care if I ever played baseball again. When I finished my rehab, I knew it was time to do something other than baseball. I guess I had done what I wanted to do in the game, and now it was time for another challenge. I returned to the Indians in September for the last few weeks of the season, getting 11 hits and 1 home run in 39 at-bats. But mentally, I had checked out. My enthusiasm for playing baseball was completely gone. Ken Hawk Harrelson. John Lowenstein was a utility player. Lowenstein batted .256 with 11 hits. He scored 5 runs. He had 3 doubles, a triple, a home run, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, a walk in 17 games. Lowenstein was born in 1947 in Wolf Point, Montana, and he's 72 years old in 2019. For his career, he batted .253 with 116 home runs and 441 RBIs. Lowenstein played for the Cleveland Indians, Texas Rangers, Baltimore Orioles from 1970 to 1985. He won a World Series title in '83 with the Orioles. He's in the Orioles Hall of Fame. He went to the University of California, Riverside, played on the Riverside Highlanders baseball team. In the '79 Game 1 of the ALCS, he had a walk-off home run. In the '83 World Series, he had a big catch to rob Bo Diaz of a home run. He also had a home run in Game 2 of the series. With the Tribe, he was the proclaimed self-proclaimed president of the self-proclaimed president and general manager of the John Lowenstein Apathy Club. He was an Orioles TV announcer for 11 years. He also, in '86, did the NBC Game of the Week as a backup announcer. In the minors, he played for the Wichita Arrows and Reno Silver Sox. In Venezuela, he played for Cardenales de Lara. Regarding the possibility of hanging a banner in his honor at the stadium, Lowenstein said, quote, "Basically, I'm against all banners. If somebody put up a sign about me, I'd immediately disqualify myself from the game. Signs have no ethereal value." He said he was going to create an apathy club for himself, and he said, quote, "Nobody knows how many members it has because nobody's interested enough to show up for meetings. I went from playing a lot to playing a little to being used sometimes and to playing on a platoon basis. Although instead of being called a platoon player, I preferred being called a situational player." John Lowenstein. Vern Fuller played some infield. Fuller batted .182 with 6 hits. He scored 3 runs, had 2 doubles, a home run, 2 RBIs, 3 walks in 29 games. Fuller was with Cleveland from 1964 and from 1966 to 1970, and this was the end of his MLB career. Vern Fuller. Russ Nicholson played some outfield. Nicholson batted .125 with 3 hits. He scored 3 runs, had a double, a home run, 2 RBIs, 3 walks in 17 games. Nicholson was with Cleveland from 1968 to 1970, and 1970 was the end of his MLB career. Russ Nicholson. Lou Camilli played some infield. Camilli batted 15 times. He did not have a hit, walked twice in 16 games. And Camilli was with Cleveland from 1969 to 1972. Lou Camilli. Now, the ace of the pitching staff was sudden Sam McDowell, who was 20-12 with an ERA of 2.92. 39 games, all starts, 19 complete games, a shutout, 305 innings pitched, and a league-leading 304 strikeouts. McDowell batted .124 with 13 hits. He scored 5 runs, had a home run, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and struck out 42 times. McDowell was with Cleveland from 1961 to 1971. And he led the American League in strikeouts for the 3rd straight year. He played on the 1970 American League All-Star team. He was co-winner of the 1970 Tribe Man of the Year Award, and he was the Sporting News 1970 American League Pitcher of the Year. He also won the 1970 Gordon Cobbledick Golden Tomahawk Award, and 1970 was his best season in his career. Sudden Sam McDowell. Rich Hand was 6-13 with an ERA of 3.83, 35 games, 25 starts, 3 complete games, a shutout, 3 saves, 159 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 110 strikeouts. Hand batted .146 with 6 hits. He scored 2 runs, had 5 RBIs, a walk, and struck out 11 times. Rich Hand was born in 1948 in Bellevue, Washington, and he's 71 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 24-39, with an ERA of 4.01 and 278 strikeouts. Hand played for the Cleveland Indians, Texas Rangers, and California Angels from 1970 to 1973. He was selected by the Tribe in the first round of the '69 MLB draft. He currently lives in Fort Worth, Texas. The minors, he played for the Denver Bears, Portland Beavers, Puget Sound Loggers, and Wichita Arrows. Rich Hand. Steve Hargan was 11-3 with an ERA of 2.90, 23 games, 19 starts, 8 complete games, a shutout, 142 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 72 strikeouts. Hargan batted 111 with 5 hits. He scored 4 runs, had a double, a walk, and struck out 15 times in 28 games. So he was used as a pinch runner, and Hargan was with Cleveland from 1965 to 1972. Steve Hargan. Steve Dunning was 4-9 with an ERA of 4.96, 19 games, 17 starts, 94 and a third innings pitched, and 77 strikeouts. Dunning batted 161 with 5 hits, and he had an RBI, a walk, and struck out 14 times. Steve Dunning was born in 1949 in Denver, Colorado, and he's 70 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 23-41 with an ERA of 4.56 and 390 strikeouts. Dunning played for the Cleveland Indians, Texas Rangers, California Angels, Montreal Expos, and Oakland A's from 1970 to 1977. He was the second player to go straight to MLB without spending a day in the minors. On May 11th, 1971, Dunning hit a grand slam off the A's pitcher Diego Segui. He was the last American League pitcher to hit a grand slam until Felix Hernandez of the Seattle Mariners in 2008. They called him Stunning Steve Dunning. In the minors, he played for the Hawaii Islanders and New Orleans Pelicans. He went to Stanford University, played on the Cardinals baseball team. With the Tribe, he was the first player selected in the 1970 amateur draft, and 11 days later started for the Tribe and got the victory in a 9-2 decision against the Milwaukee Brewers at the stadium. There was a big crowd of 25,380 at the game. Dunning said, quote, "It was overwhelming to be drafted number 1 in the country in 1970, and then to be given the opportunity to pitch in the big leagues immediately and to win. It was almost beyond comprehension, a dream come true, something I'll never forget as long as I live." Stunning Steve Dunning. Barry Moore was 3-5 with an ERA of 4.22, 13 games, 12 starts, 70 and a third innings pitched, and 35 strikeouts. Moore batted .095 with 2 hits. He scored a run and struck out twice. Moore was born in 1943 in Statesville, North Carolina. And he's 76 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 26-37 with an ERA of 4.16 and 599 and 2/3 innings pitched. Moore pitched for the Washington Senators, Cleveland Indians, and Chicago White Sox from 1965 to 1970. 1967 with the Senators, he had a 1-hit shutout against the Twins. 1967, he gave up Catfish Hunter's first MLB home run. In the minors, Moore played for the York White Roses, Buffalo Bisons. He went to Pfeiffer University and played on the Falcons baseball team. Barry Moore. Dennis Higgins was the closer in the bullpen. Higgins was 4-6 with an ERA of 3.99, 58 games, 11 saves, 90 and a third innings pitched, and 82 strikeouts. Higgins batted .250 with 3 hits. He scored a run, had an RBI, and walked twice. Higgins was born in 1939 in Jefferson City, Missouri, and he's 80 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 22-23 with an ERA of 3.42 and 339 strikeouts and 46 saves. Higgins pitched for the Chicago White Sox, Washington Senators, Cleveland Indians, and St. Louis Cardinals from 1966 to 1972. In the minors, he played for the Dubuque Packers, Duluth Superior Dukes, Idaho Falls Russets, Lincoln Chiefs, Tulsa Oilers, and Wichita Arrows. Dennis Higgins. Dean Chance was a starter and reliever. Chance was 9-8. He pitched in 45 games. He had 19 starts, a complete game, a shutout, 4 saves, 155 innings pitched, and 109 strikeouts. Chance batted .071 with 3 hits. He scored a run, had 3 RBIs, walked twice, and struck out 32 times. Chance was born in 1941 in Wooster, Ohio, and died in 2015 in Wooster at age 74. For his career, he was 128-115 with an ERA of 2.92 and 1,534 strikeouts. Chance pitched for the Los Angeles Angels, California Angels, Minnesota Twins, Cleveland Indians, New York Mets, and Detroit Tigers from 1961 to 1971. He was a 2-time All-Star in 64 and 67. He won a Cy Young Award in 64 with the Angels. He's American League wins and ERA leader in 64. He threw a no-hitter in 67. He's in the Angels Hall of Fame. He had a touch of wildness, a habit of never looking at home plate after getting the sign, turning his back completely against the hitter during the windup. In high school, he was 52-1. He had a 20-victory season, 32 in a row, and threw 8 no-hitters in high school. 1 year in high school, and 17 no-hitters during his high school career. In 67, he was the American League Comeback Player of the Year. His career batting average was .066. He retired to live on his 300-acre ranch 3 miles from his boyhood home. In the 70s and 80s, he worked as a midway barker for carnivals and fairs and employed 25 people, operating games and skills of chance in a circuit from Columbus, Ohio, to Raleigh, North Carolina, Augusta, Georgia, Syracuse, New York, Hollywood, Florida, and Corpus Christi, Texas. He founded the International Boxing Association in 1990 and managed many boxers. He was longtime president of that organization. And for the Angels' 50th anniversary in 2011, he threw out the first pitch. He was sold to the Mets by the Tribe in September of 1970. Dean Chance. Phil Hennigan was a relief pitcher. Hennigan was 6-3 with an ERA of 4.02. 42 games, 1 start, 3 saves, 71 2/3 innings pitched, and 43 strikeouts. Hennigan batted .143 with 1 hit and 7 at-bats. He scored a run, had a double, an RBI, and walked twice. Hennigan was with Cleveland from 1969 to 1972. Phil Hennigan. Rick Austin was 2-5 with an ERA of 4.79, 31 games, 8 starts, a complete game, a shutout, 3 saves, 67 2/3 innings pitched, and 53 strikeouts. Austin batted .111 with 2 hits and 18 at-bats. He had a double, 3 walks, and struck out 10 times. Austin was born in 1946 in Seattle, Washington, and he's 72 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 4-8 with an ERA of 4.63 and 106 strikeouts. Austin pitched for the Cleveland Indians, Hanyuku Braves in Japan, and Milwaukee Brewers from 1970 to 1976. He went to Washington State and played on the Cougars baseball team and threw a perfect game there in 1968. Rick Austin. Fred Lasher was 1-7 with an ERA of 4.06, 43 games, 1 start, 5 saves, 57 2/3 innings pitched, and 44 strikeouts. He batted 8 times, did not have a hit, and struck out 4 times. Lasher was born in 1941 in Poughkeepsie, New York, and he's 78 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 11-13 with an ERA of 3.88 and 148 strikeouts and 22 saves. Lasher pitched for the Minnesota Twins, Detroit Tigers, Cleveland Indians, and California Angels from 1963 to 1971. He won a World Series title in '68 with the Tigers. He had 2 scoreless innings pitched in the '68 World Series. In the minors, he played for the Atlanta Crackers, Fort Walton Beach Jets, Montgomery Rebels, Toledo Mud Hens, and Wilson Tops. One game pitching for Cleveland, he was taken out of the game and he was upset. He lost his temper, threw his glove into the stands, and the fan who caught the glove threw it right back at him. Fred Lasher. Mike Paul was 2-8 with an ERA of 4.81, 30 games, 15 starts, a complete game, 88 innings pitched, and 70 strikeouts. Paul batted .154 with 4 hits and 26 at-bats. He scored 2 runs and struck out 7 times. Paul was with Cleveland from 1968 to 1970. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1974. Mike Paul. Dick Ellsworth was 3-3 with an ERA of 4.53 in 29 games, 1 start, 2 saves, 43 2/3 innings pitched, and 13 strikeouts. He batted 4 times, did not have a hit, struck out twice. Ellsworth was with Cleveland from 1969 to 1970. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1971. Dick Ellsworth. Vince Colbert was 1-1 with an ERA of 7.26. 23 games, 2 saves, 31 innings pitched, and 17 strikeouts. Colbert batted twice, did not have a hit, and struck out once. He was born in 1945 in Washington, D.C., and he's 73 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 9-14 with an ERA of 4.57 and 248 and a third innings pitched. Colbert pitched for Cleveland from 1970 to 1972. The minors, he pitched for the Oklahoma City 89ers and Portland Beavers and Wichita Arrows. In Mexico, he played for Broncos de Reynosa, Leones de Yucatan, and Venezuela for Tigres de Aragua. Vince Colbert. Bob Miller was 2-2 with an ERA of 4.18, 15 games, 2 starts, a save, 28 innings pitched, and 15 strikeouts. Miller batted .200 with 1 hit and 5 at-bats. He had a walk and struck out once. He was born in 1939 in St. Louis, Missouri, and died in 1993 in Rancho Bernardo, California at age 54. For his career, he was 69-81 with an ERA of 3.37 and 895 strikeouts. Miller pitched for the St. Louis Cardinals, New York Mets, Los Angeles Dodgers, Minnesota Twins, Cleveland Indians, Chicago White Sox, Chicago Cubs, San Diego Padres, and Detroit Tigers. From 1957 to 1974, some career, he won 3 World Series titles in 63 and 65 with the Dodgers and in 71 with the Pirates. Roy Hartsfield called Miller, quote, the Christian, quote, because he suffers so much. He was a part-time reliever with a sore arm, but according to Roy Hartsfield, quote, when he came up with some other sore arms on the staff, he would come in and suffer a few innings. His birth name was Gemeinweiser, which he changed to Miller. He was an original Met in 1962 and went 1-12 that year. In 76, he was a manager in the minors for the Amarillo Gold Sox in the Texas League and won the title there. He's also a coach for the Toronto Blue Jays, San Francisco Giants. He died of injuries from a car accident. In the minors, he played for the Hawaii Islanders, Houston Buffaloes, and Memphis Chickasaws, and in Venezuela for Industriales de Valencia. Bob Miller. Jim Ritwidge was 1-1 with an ERA of 4.15, 8 games, 3 starts, a complete game, 26 innings pitched, and 16 strikeouts. Ritwidge batted .375 with 3 hits and 8 at-bats. He scored a run and had a double. Ritwidge was born in 1944 in Cleveland, Ohio, and he's 74 years old in 2019. His MLB career was just with Cleveland in 1970. In the minors, he played for the Birmingham Barons, Portland Beavers, Wichita Arrows, and Oklahoma City 89ers. His career highlight was a complete game victory against the Orioles. He had 7 strikeouts, including striking out Boog Powell, Brooks Robinson with the bases loaded, as well as Bobby Grich. Jim Ritwidge. And finally, Steve Mangori was 1-0 with an ERA of 2.66, 21 games, 1 save, 20 and a third innings pitched, and 16 strikeouts. Mangori batted once, did not have a hit. He was born in 1944 in Kansas City, Missouri, and died in 2008 in Liberty, Missouri at age 64. For his career, he was 18-33 with an ERA of 3.03 and 329 strikeouts. Mangori pitched for the Cleveland Indians and Kansas City Royals from 1970 to 1979, so he was a rookie in 1970. In the minors, he played for the Knoxville Smokies, Oklahoma City 89ers, Portland Beavers, Tampa Tarpons, and he went to Pittsburgh State and played on the Gorillas baseball team. In Venezuela, he played for Tigres de Aragua. Steve Mangori said, quote, I probably never would have gotten to Cleveland or even made it to the big leagues if it hadn't been for Alvin Dark. I owe my major league career to him. Steve Mangori. After the regular season, the league championship series were played. In the 1970 ALCS, the Baltimore Orioles, American League East champions, defeated the Minnesota Twins, American League West champions, 3-0, so it was a sweep. In Game 2, Orioles pitcher Mike Cuellar hit a grand slam home run. In the NLCS, the Cincinnati Reds, National League West champions, defeated the Pittsburgh Pirates, National League East champions, 3-0, another sweep. And so the World Series, 1970, the Baltimore Orioles, American League champions, defeated the Cincinnati Reds, National League champions, 4-1. The MVP was Brooks Robinson for the Orioles. Hall of Famers in the World Series for the Orioles: Earl Weaver, the manager, Jim Palmer, Brooks Robinson, and Frank Robinson. For the Reds, Sparky Anderson, the manager, and Johnny Bench and Tony Perez. Emmett Ashford became the first black umpire in a World Series. This was the first World Series where games were played on artificial turf, games 1 and 2 at Cincinnati Riverfront Stadium. And it was the last World Series when all games were played in the afternoon. The Orioles' Brooks Robinson got the nickname the Human Vacuum Cleaner and made a number of incredible plays at third base. Game 1 of the World Series, the Jackson 5 sang the national anthem before the game. In the 6th inning, there was a collision at home plate between umpire Ken Burkhardt, Reds base runner Bernie Carbo, and the Orioles catcher Elrod Hendricks. In the 6th, the Reds' Lee May, 6th inning, Lee May hit a smash down the third base line that Brooks Robinson backhanded and threw May out from the coaching box in foul ground. One of the best plays in World Series history. Game 2, Brooks Robinson had 2 more amazing plays. Game 3 in Baltimore, Brooks Robinson had 3 more great plays. Orioles pitcher Dave McNally had a grand slam in that game, helping the Orioles win 9-3, and that meant the Orioles led the World Series 3-0. However, in Game 4, Lee May had a 3-run home run to help the Reds win 6-5. In Game 5, Mike Cuellar got the win for the Orioles. In the 8th inning, the Orioles were up 9-3, and Brooks Robinson was called out on strikes and got a standing ovation from the crowd in Baltimore. He said, quote, "It's the most touching thing that has ever happened to me on a baseball diamond." Now, the last out of the World Series, the batter was Pat Corrales for the Reds, who later managed Cleveland. He hit a slow chopper to Brooks Robinson, who threw to Boog Powell at first for the out. Powell played for Cleveland later. Brooks Robinson hit .429 and it's in the series with 17 total bases, 2 home runs, and 2 doubles. It was the World Series MVP. The team celebrated in Timonium, Maryland. There was a kangaroo court at the celebration. Frank Robinson was the judge. He fined Brooks Robinson $1 for, quote, showboating it during the entire series. Reds manager Sparky Anderson said, quote, "Brooks Robinson took us out of the games himself. Every time we got it going, bam, he made a play." Doug Wilson, Brooks Robinson biographer, said, quote, "The 1970 World Series was Brooks Robinson's magnum opus. His greatest work, a singular show of genius on sport's biggest stage. For 5 games, he held the nation's attention. He amazed and astounded, and he dominated the series as few men ever have. A lot of players had turned in great hitting or pitching performances in the World Series, but no one had ever come close to the fielding brilliance he exhibited over and over. The grace and nonchalant humbleness combined to form the perfect ingredients for mythology. Brooks Robinson became a household name after that week. He would be forever linked to the 1970 World Series. Now and forever, Brooks Robinson would be the vacuum cleaner." Now, the MVPs for 1970 in the American League, it was Boog Powell for the Baltimore Orioles. In the National League, Johnny Bench for the Reds. The Cy Young Award winners in the American League, Jim Perry for the Twins. And the National League, Bob Gibson for the Cardinals. And Gaylord Perry finished second, Jim Perry's brother, in the MVP voting. So that's the story of the 1970 Cleveland Indians. They had a reasonable year. God bless the guys who played for the Cleveland Indians in 1970 and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans, especially the Second World War veterans, Korean War veterans, and Vietnam War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Euclid Avenue electricity, Severance Hall stalwarts, Cleveland Museum of Art enthusiasts, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum rebels, Christmas Story House happy people, Museum of Contemporary Art maniacs, Cleveland Botanical Garden goers, Old Arcade admirers, Playhouse Square seers, Settlers Landing Park purists, Western Reserve Historical Society Wonders, First Energy Stadium Friends, Progressive Field Pals, Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse Renegades, Cuyahoga Valley National Park Pioneers, Great Lakes Science Center Supporters, Holden Arboretum Enjoyers, and Cleveland Public Library Learners. Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters, Gladiators, and Fusion Rule. And Spiders, Bulldogs, Rosenblums, Barons, Rams, Crusaders, Force, Crunch, Lumberjacks, and Rockers Rule. Cleveland, City of Champions. Cleveland is the best location in the nation on the north coast of America. New York is the Big Apple. Cleveland is a plum. It's been 71 years since 1948. This is our year. Go Tribe. You might consider checking out our website, Adventures in History, with Peter J. Ray at peterjray.com. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. And I'll see you next time.